is one of the greatest threats to Lake Tahoe and to the Truckee River system. Dr. Sudeep Chandra graduated in 2003 with a PhD from the University of California, Davis, and is currently an assistant professor at the University of Nevada, Reno. Dr. Chandra has classical training in limnology and evaluating impacts of land use and changes on freshwater ecosystems, which obviously is a perfect fit for here at Lake Tahoe. Among his many avenues of research, Dr. Chandra has been studying the conservation potential for threatened Lahontan cutthroat trout in Lake Tahoe and in Pyramid Lakes, and is evaluating the impacts of non-native species and nutrient loading here at Lake Tahoe. Doctor?
As Senator Feinstein and others have mentioned, once established in the lake, invasive species could rapidly alter the lake's biodiversity, change the lake clarity, and affect our recreational opportunities. The management of invasive species depends on filling key knowledge gaps that sometimes are very unique to the waters of Lake Tahoe, as I'll mention in a moment. In May 2007, the first Lake Tahoe invasive species workshop was held here at Tahoe at the Tahoe Center for Environmental Sciences. At this meeting, both agency representatives and researchers from the University of Nevada, UC Davis, and the Desert Research Institute acknowledged, one, that the growing threat of invasive species to the basin is very real, and two, the potential for them to undo the 40 years of efforts and hundreds of millions of dollars that have been put in to save the lake's clarity could change at a moment's notice. The result has been the formation of a multi-agency partnership through the creation of the Lake Tahoe Aquatic Invasive Species Coordination and Aquatic Working Groups, as well as the hiring of an aquatic invasive species coordinator through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The coordinator position was designed to facilitate collaborations between the managers and the researchers and efficiently utilize the limiting resources that we've had here to address this new issue. Our response to the Asian clam proliferation, which has been talked about earlier, is one example of how we have reacted in a very progressive and proactive manner to an invasive species that can alter the lake's nearshore conditions. After I spoke to you at the summit here last year on this very topic, about a week later, our research team discovered Asian clams in Marlip Bay, and the water's right behind us over here. The science team found that this clam can facilitate nearshore blooms of bright green algae. These blooms are on the level of nuisance algal blooms that could be classified through the Environmental Protection Agency. As a result of this invasion, and with strong support from the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, the Tahoe Resource Conservation District, Nevada Division of State Lands, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, along with some pilot funding from the Bureau of Reclamation, Lahontan Water Quality Control Board, and the California Tahoe Conservancy, our science team responded in a rapid manner to this invasion issue from the Asian clams. In the last 8 months, the team quickly mobilized to determine the extent of the clam populations and their potential for growing in the unique waters of Lake Tahoe that are very low in calcium. In concert with those agency representatives, we actually initiated pilot projects to determine the most effective method for controlling or managing these clam populations. Some of these pilot projects are actually just right out here in Marlip Bay. So given the increasing geographic proximity of invasive species such as quagga mussel, which has also been discussed here to Lake Tahoe, we recently completed research that assisted policymakers in developing plans to prevent other invasions from happening to the lake. With funding from the Army Corps of Engineers and the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, we conducted laboratory experiments at the University of Nevada that determined that adult quagga mussels could indeed survive in Tahoe's low calcium waters and possibly reproduce. This new science suggests that the threat from nearby invasive mussels that are at Lake Mead or approximate to this region is real for Lake Tahoe, and it really stresses the importance of the current agency-led boat inspection and prevention program and its expansion on a regional effort. So don't be depressed yet, guys. This threat of invasions can get really down. It gets really tiring to talk about over and over again. But there is some good news today. There's a lot of good news to be had. One, that this is a very, very productive time for invasive species management efforts and prevention within the basin. As we'll see in a few moments, all of the past research in the last year and a half and management discussions will have been led to the creation of a basin-wide invasive species management plan that is supported both by California and Nevada. This is a great step, and I want to thank you, Secretary Chrisman, Mr. Biaggi, and Governor Gibbons for signing that plan. That was a lot of work that we put into, and we really appreciate it. A second set of good news today is that many of the recent invasive species that we've been studying in the lake are still in their early stages of establishment. I mentioned this last year as well. So there is actually something we can do about these species if we manage them appropriately and properly and immediately. So these recent introductions of curly-leaf pondweed, water milfoil, largemouth bass, all our science studies indicate that one, you can manage these populations if you do them immediately, and two, that the outcome of those measures of management need to be monitored to determine their effectiveness in the future. We currently do not have a comprehensive nearshore monitoring plan, so we need to develop one. On behalf of our science team, I'd like to thank all of the folks that have supported us this past year. This has been a lot of work, and I'd just like to take a moment to have folks that are working on both terrestrial and aquatic invasive species issues in the basin stand out. Folks like Ted Fair and TRPA, Marianne Whitman, Grant Allen, others that are in the basin. I saw Betty Francis out there. Can you just stand up for a moment? It's been a long time here.
Senator, one last question actually I wanted to ask real quick. I want to get this one for video purposes. On the same topic of why it's important to bring funding into this, as you are now part of the majority in Washington, the majority party in the Senate in Washington, what can we expect to see from your end in the future on helping to keep Lake Tahoe blue?
Well, I will be introducing a bill as I go back, which will be a reauthorization of the Tahoe Restoration Act, which will be another major commitment of the federal government for various projects designed to improve the lake. I assume that the state will continue, and we know that the private sector on the lake will raise a like amount of money. So I feel very good that we'll be able to continue our efforts for another 10 years.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Senator. Have a good one. Works.